The old school building stood as a jagged silhouette against the dying light of the sun, its windows like empty eyes watching the world. The air here was heavy with the scent of damp stone and a century of forgotten lessons. It was a place that didn't want visitors. The old watchman handed the heavy iron keys to Ravi, his hand trembling. His eyes were wide with a fear he couldn't hide. "Ravi, listen to me carefully. Whatever you hear, whatever you see, do not set foot on the 3rd floor after the clock strikes 12. Ravi just laughed, the sound echoing hollowly against the stone walls. To him, the old man's warnings were nothing more than senile superstitions. As the door groaned shut behind him, the darkness of the corridor seemed to reach out, swallowing the last remnants of the evening light. His flashlight beam danced across the dust motes, revealing lockers that looked like silent sentinels guarding the memories of students long since gone. Every floorboard creak sounded like a footstep following him. Ravi paused, listening to the silence, but only heard the rhythm of his own heart. The school was different at night. The air felt colder, thinner, as if the building itself were exhaling a breath it had held for decades. He checked his watch. 11:50. 10 minutes until the time the old man feared. Ravi sat in the security office, trying to remain focused. Outside, the wind began to howl, rattling the old window frames. Inside, the wall clock ticked with a mechanical, relentless precision that grated on his nerves. 11. Ravi found himself holding his breath, waiting for a sound he didn't want to hear. Then it started. A low, metallic groan that resonated through the floorboards. The old-school bell mechanism was waking up from its long slumber. Trin. Trin. The sound was deafening. A sharp, piercing ring that sliced through the midnight air, coming directly from the 3rd floor. Ravi froze. His skepticism vanished, replaced by a cold, primal dread. The bell shouldn't be ringing. There was no one up there to ring it. He looked toward the end of the hall, where the staircase led upward into a darkness that seemed deeper and more absolute than the rest. Against every instinct, his feet began to move. He climbed the stairs, each step heavy, as if the gravity on the 3rd floor was pulling him in. The air on the 3rd floor was freezing. Ravi's breath came in ragged puffs of white mist, and the silence here was even more terrifying than the bell. At the very end of the long, desolate hallway, a single classroom door began to creak. It swung open slowly, an invitation into the unknown. Ravi stepped inside. The room was filled with rows of old desks, bare with scarred and worn. He felt 1,000 invisible eyes watching him. On the blackboard, a piece of white chalk rose into the air. With a rhythmic scratching sound, he began to write. "Someone is late again." Ravi spun around, his flashlight beam cutting through the air. He heard them then, the faint, rhythmic whispers of children, giggling in the shadows. Suddenly, the heavy desks began to move. They dragged across the floor with a screeching sound that felt like nails on Ravi's very soul. The windows slammed shut with a thunderous bang, the glass rattling in their frames. There was no escape. The darkness was closing in. The writing on the board changed. The word "someone is late" vanished, replaced by a final, chilling decree: there will be no dismissal today. The school bell rang once more, so loud it felt like his head would explode. Ravi fell to his knees, paralyzed by a terror beyond words. Morning light filtered into the school the next day, clean and bright, as if the horrors of the night had never happened. Ravi's jacket was still draped over the chair in the control room. His flashlight lay on the floor, its battery long since dead. The old watchman walked into the 3rd floor classroom. He didn't look surprised. He only looked tired, as if he had seen this many times before. He walked to the teacher's desk and opened the heavy attendance register. He picked up a pen, his hand steady but heavy with grief. There, at the very bottom of the page, a new name was written in fresh, dark ink: Ravi. The school had found its newest student,